going to talk about automation, a little bit about free motion and what to do with your hoop frames. Come on. All right. So a little quiz from last time. Okay. So I just want you to type in chat if you want to what this is. So what part is this and what does it do? Everybody should know from last time. What part is this and what does it do? And then right below that, let's name the parts of the needle. I've given you off to the left. We've got the shank, the shaft, the eye, the point, the scarf, and the groove. And then to the right of that is what stitching mode on your mid to long arm machine does the needle keep stitching when you stop moving the machine? It's a regulated mode. And then right below that, what stitching mode on your mid to long arm machine is not regulated? It's an easy one. And then what stitching mode on your mid to long arm stops stitching when you stop moving the machine and regulates your stitches? There's 3 different modes on all of our machines. Well, if you have a mid to long arm, unique, whatever. So just kind of have fun, think through this. Okay. Have I given you enough time? Hope so. You guys are so brilliant. Okay, so this part here is what we call an encoder, and it helps to regulate your stitches and keep them more consistent. And there are 2 encoders. There's one on the back for the back and forth motion, or side to, and the one for the side to side. And they are really important to help regulate your stitches. Then the name of the parts of the needle are, this is the shank, this long piece that you put up inside your needle bar, that's the shank. This little portion right here is the shaft. And then we've got our eye down here, our scarf right here, that's that little indent, the scarf. And then the point of the needle, and on the other side, this is on the front, it's called a groove, and it helps pull the thread and keep it nice and straight while you pull it through the eye of the needle. Really important for you to know because the groove faces the front of the machine and the scarf faces the back of the machine. What stitching mode on your mid to long arm? Does the needle keep stitching up and down? It's regulated cruise mode. Then what a mode is not regulated? It's manual mode. And if you haven't tried manual mode, I suggest you try it because I like it and you might like it too for certain styles of quilting. And what stitching mode on your mid to long arm stops stitching when you stop moving the machine? It's regulated precise mode. Okay, let's keep going. All right, this is Quilter's Playground, and we're calling this Hoop Hooray. I love hoop frames, you guys. They have just changed the way quilters quilt. And I know some of you have probably purchased a hoop frame or you've tried them and you don't like them. Well, that's fine. But when you first purchased it, it got you started. It got you quilting at a price point that you can afford. And now you know where you want to spend your money and what you want to upgrade to. So we have different styles of hoop frames. So we have our Cutie Breeze. We have our Q-zone hoop, and we have the dual wheel and the single track. We have our Evolution, Quilter's Evolution hoop frame, our mini quilter, and then our cute little hummingbird frame for push quilting. They all have, okay, what are the benefits of owning and starting out with a hoop style frame? Okay, I really thought a lot about this, you guys. It takes up less space. You can quilt larger size quilts. On a rolling frame, you're really limited to the space or the width that the rolling frame has. So you can't, if you have an 8-foot frame and you have a larger quilt, it's really hard to quilt that quilt. The quilt layer management, it manages all those layers and keeps them nice. And then you can do detailed quilting in sections at a time. You can add automation, you can do ruler work, so there's no limitations there. You can quilt pantographs using a laser. It gets you started quilting. Actually, it's less money. You start out with your home domestic machine on these hoop frames and then upgrade to a longer arm machine. And then I like to sit and quilt on my hoop frame, and you can't do that on a rolling frame. You have to stand and quilt, or unless you get a stool or a chair that you can sit. And then the Quilter's Evolution hoop frame. This is one of the perks of this one. It can be upgraded to a 12-foot rolling frame because sometimes in life you have kids move out or you get that little extra space and then you can upgrade. So that's one of the little perks of the Quilter's Evolution frame is that you can just buy those extra extensions and add on to it. All right, how much quilt space will I have? This is determined not really by the frame, okay? It's determined by your machine. And make sure that your design height will work from top to bottom of your machine. Now you will lose a bit more space lose a little bit of space on hoop frames, but you will lose a lot more on rolling frames because it's rolling around, it's building up bulk on the take-up pole, and where it's not on the hoop style frames, it's just sitting on top of that pole and it kind of nested right there. So you do lose a little bit more, so you do have more quiltable space, and that's why it's really nice to start out. So I have our little rebel here, and on this, you guys will get this page as well. So you will know how many rows is determined by the height of the design, and then how much you can, this is an estimation. And then you can start with simple designs, don't cross, and then denser designs are a little harder to learn. But just know that this is just an estimation right here of the inches that you have to work with and how much you can actually quilt with your design height. All right, so let's talk about our tops and getting them ready to put on our hoop frames. Measure your top, get those measurements. All right, and then write down your measurements so that you have them. If you're using automation, it's really important. Then cut your backing and batting, and you can add 16 inches or 8 inches to each side, sides and top and bottom. If you're quilting an edge-to-edge design, these measurements will allow you to quilt off the edges of your quilt top. If you are quilting one block at a time, you probably don't need as much on the sides and top, but you will need it on the top and bottom if you were not using leaders. All right, so I'm going to talk about leaders next. I hope this is really clear for you to understand why we have more excess all the way around. Even on the rolling frames, you guys, I have it wider so that I can really quilt off the quilt top edges. All right, this is one of the reasons you can use cloth leaders if you want, or you can cut your backing and batting wider and longer to act as your leader. So this is how much excess you will need. But if you don't have enough of the backing, then you might want to use, well, you for sure want to add a little extension on the top and bottom and a side leader to help you quilt your quilt. Now, the side leaders will act as a little buffer to keep it from having a lot of flex and play on it. And then your bungee clamps, your clamps won't get in the way as well. So that's why you would want to use leaders and when you don't need to use leaders. It's all up to you guys. This is your style of quilting and the way you like to quilt. All right, here's our first video. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for Quilter's Playground. Okay, today is all things hoop. And going to talk to you about how much fabric you need for your backing and your batting when you're putting your quilt top on and getting ready to quilt. So I just wanted you to notice, okay, that say I just have cut just a little bit of excess on the top. If I went to clamp, okay, this isn't the right clamp, but I'm just showing you, I would have to reposition my quilt down a little further. I won't have enough room to quilt up in this space here. That's why a leader comes in very handy. If you don't have enough top and bottom, use leaders. They give you that excess that you can quilt all the way to the edge of your quilt. Now, I have cut this one with 8 inches excess all the way across and around. So it's 8 inches wide here to here, here to here, top and bottom. Okay. All right. Should I baste or should I not baste? Okay, there are lots of different ways to baste your quilt. You can use spray adhesive. You could use the safety pins. I really don't like the safety pins because you have to unpin them as you're quilting, and I don't want my needle to go over them. And then there's the good old-fashioned hand basting from way back when. Now, I think of basting really as a 4-letter word when it comes to quilting. I do not like basting, and I really don't do it. I tack down the edges of my quilt, but if you feel more secure and that's your method, go ahead and do it. It's all up to you. I've tried the spray basting, I've tried the safety pins, and yes, I have done it the old-fashioned way with basting using thread. I just don't like it. And so I avoid it as much as I can. But by all means, if it's what makes you feel better as a quilter and more secure with your quilting, do it. All right, we're going to talk about taking the fabric clamps on and off, okay? Clamps off, I want to show you the same thing. Use your thumbs. If you have joint problems, this probably isn't your method, okay? So I'm going to use my thumbs as leverage because it makes it more ergonomic for me. And I'm going to press my thumbs against the pole, take my fingers right here and pull one end of the clamp off. And that's how you take it off. Really slick and easy. Clamps. All right, here's the next one. How do I know when I'm getting close to the sides and the edges of my quilt? Now, the sound didn't work on this one, so I'm going to have to do a voiceover as I'm showing you. But you'll notice right here, I have a piece of tape. And I use this tape. This is gaffer's tape because it's a little more sticky, but it doesn't leave a residue. Painter's tape is really good, but it doesn't stay sticking to it. And so just be careful. Notice where my foot is. I'm using my foot as my guide. And I had to do this by myself. Nobody was helping me, so I'm sorry. Don't get sick at watching this. So I have all 3 pieces. I have one on the left side, one in the front, and one on the right side, just to show you that that's where I'm going to stop. So I'm not going to stop on this side. On the extreme left side of it, I'm going to pull it in and just have my quilting area on the right side. I wish you could hear my voice, and you could see my reflection pretty good. But anyway, we're going to bypass this video but make sure you're marking. Some people are using yarn. Some people are using bungees to mark their sides. And we have the edge warning. If you have a sure stitch or newer machines, you have the edge warning. I do use the edge warning to let me know. And I'm just taking it across to show you that this is where I'd stop when I get to my tape on the right. Notice right down here, barely. Oh, well, wasn't one of my best videos, okay? All right, so here we have, can we use a laser and follow with pantograph on a hoop frame? It's a smaller frame, but can you use it? The answer is yes. You can use it from the back of your machine. If you have rear handles, you can also use the Pattern Perfect, or you can also use the laser for the front. Now, this is a laser. It's called the Gracie laser, and it's used with domestic machines that have a top carriage with handles. On the Unique machines, we'll use what we call the sewing machine laser. That's what it's called. And you can mount it on the front handles or the back handles, and it gives you a little attachment, a little bar here that you can mount to the back and follow along. So there are lots of different styles. Hoop frames do not stop you from doing any style of quilting. You just expands your outlook and your resources. So just know anything you can do on a rolling frame. I'm not going to say you can do it better on a hoop frame, but you can do it. All right, here, can I use rulers and rulers bases? Yes, you can. Here is what you will need. Even if you have a domestic machine that you're using, you need to buy what they call a ruler base. And it just mounts to the carriage, and it wraps around, and it acts as a table surface, just like when you're on your sewing machines, as you have those little tables that go around. That's what a ruler base does for quilting. And you'll need the ruler foot. And look at all the beautiful designs that you can quilt with rulers. I love ruler work. It's a lot of fun. So if you think you can't do it, you guys can. You're brilliant. All right, we're going to talk about the setup of the hoop frame. And Jerry's going to talk about it.
Okay, so as you're setting up your quilt and you're getting ready to put your QMX together, you want to get ready for your pattern, you need to make sure that your frame is completely on your table on all four corners. If it's not, oops, this kind of stuff happens. Yeah. Can you get it over there? Yeah. There we go. Okay. If it's not completely on your table and balanced correctly, it will actually stop the machine, or it will distort your patterns. So you want to make sure that it is on your table. And every time you move your quilt, you clamp down, you're moving this slightly, the QMX will move it slightly. Okay. Every time you're doing everything, when the QMX is going, it's vibrating, and it does kind of make it walk around the table a little bit. So just double check and make sure that everything is on the table. It's all nice and balanced, and all your edges are level.
All right, before we go to the next one, this is true for any of the frames or any of the automations. Make sure everything is level and aligned correctly. Your clamps for your belts. Otherwise, you're going to get distorting of designs, or you're going to have it walk at an angle or sew at an angle. And you don't want that. You want it to sew as straight or quilt as straight as possible, especially when you're quilting pantographs, okay? So here's my next one. All right, so I want you to notice how I have excess backing and batting. And what this will do is it'll allow me that I don't have to use the leader cloth, and I can use the backing and the batting as my leader cloth. So now I can position my quilt top. Notice I've moved my machine as far to the left as possible and back as possible. Marie lost the phone. And so now I want to position my quilt top. See where the foot is? I know I need a little down, so I'm going to just make it a couple inches down. And I'm going to pull it in slightly, okay? And I'm going to put my first clamp on, and then I can proceed across to clamp it. All right, let's see our next one. Notice where I'm putting my foot all the way out to the end. Okay, you guys, I'm pausing it because I want to explain what's going on. I actually forgot that Jerry had the microphone and I forgot to put it back on. So she's over at her desk. Okay, so we'll just laugh this off. What I'm talking about is the little coils on for the cutie breeze. We want them to the extreme right and the extreme left. And I don't use the coil in the middle, especially with the automation or free motion, because it actually hinders my quilting as I'm moving across. So if you have the cutie breeze and you're using the coils, make sure that your clamps, your left clamp and your right clamp are all the way off to the sides, with your coil all the way to the extreme right and extreme left. And I don't use the one in the middle. And that's what I'm trying to explain here. And then I'm just going to finish setting up the frame. It's kind of self-explanatory, but I just wanted to tell you. I'm talking about how much tension you'll need. Because we're using the automation and not the sensors on the Little Rebel, we don't need it quite as loose and laying on top of the surface of the Little Rebel because the automation doesn't use the sensors. So pick and choose how you're going to do it. And then I'm just going to move it forward and then show you what we did. Okay, so we're done with that one. Okay, here we go. Can I automate? And this one's tacking down the edges of our quilt. You know, even if I'm free motion quilting, I always tack down the edges of my quilt. It just makes it so if I actually sew up the edge, or it keeps it from shifting and moving as I'm quilting across. So tack down your edges because you don't want your quilt to be moving as your hopping foot's going across. Using QMX foundations with our Little Rebel machine, which I love. All right, and where I'm going to show you how to quickly tack down the edges of your quilt before you start quilting. That's really important because if you're quilting off the edge, you want this edge stabilized so it doesn't fold over and catch, because it can wind up making a knot in your foot. And boy, there's nothing worse than having a big hole in your side of your beautiful quilt top that you just quilted. So I'm going to start right down here. I put my presser foot down, or my hopping foot, on the Little Rebel. It's a hopping foot. And I'm going to pull my threads up. So I'm going to use my buttons, pull my threads up. And now I'm just going to move on. You can tell I've already done it, but I'm just re-showing you because that video didn't work out. I don't mind telling you that this is take two. Now going across the top, that was a little more difficult. So I had to use my thumb and my finger to pull the fabric across so I didn't get the wrinkles. Kind of helps that I already stitched it. But notice, as I'm pulling it on this side, it kind of gives it that little tension that I need to pull those wrinkles out. I'm going to go all the way across. Okay, so I stopped. I had my fabric positioned over here. I moved it over because I want to show you how to add little repeats of your design onto it to finish up the one row. All right, here is setting the height of your design. So we're going to talk about that. Make sure you put your measurements in. It doesn't matter which version you have, from QMX to QCT to edge, you need some measurements. So you need to decide how tall you want it. And on QMX and edge, QCT 6, you need to decide how many rows down. because it quilts out one row at a time. On the plus version, it will quilt out 2 rows at a time. And then on the Pro, you can apply your full measurements of your quilt, which is really nice. And then it will quilt out all those sections all the way down. So it's not going to break it up. It'll break it up into zones for you. But on the other versions, you have to do your calculations to know how many times you're going down your quilt, or just do the repeats all the way down, because it's just the same thing all the way down your quilt. Okay, I'm in QMX Foundations. I've tapped on the style of quilting I'm going to do. It's not a block, it's a pantograph. I'm picking my design. It's a mushroom design for my mushroom quilt, and I'm confirming my selection. Okay, I've connected. My screen's a little small, and I'm going to tap on next. Now, this is going to let me adjust the height that I want. With my little rebel, I have 13 inches, okay? I'm not going to quilt 13 inches because I can't accommodate all that space. So I am just going to put 5 inches in. Oops, I got to go backspace. I could have used my plus or minus, but I was just applying the measurement. And I'm going to get out of this by tapping enter and get out of that screen. Okay, check. Find the check mark, and then you're ready. Tap on next, and we're going to set our start and stop. Okay, so this is the top of my quilt, and I want to make sure that, see where my crosshairs are on the screen? I want to make sure that going all the way across when I set my design, that it will stay and quilt. So I'm over off onto the edge. That's my safe area. That's okay. Notice, use those crosshairs. It is very cool. I wish we had crosshairs all over the place. So I'm going to mark where I'm going to mark my first point. See, it's up and off the edge. I'm actually going to go up just slightly, okay? And I'm going to tap on start. Okay. Where's a pencil? I forgot. Stop it right there. All right, so I go through and I get the pencil, I readjust, and you know, I had to place it a couple of times. Don't let that be a problem. It's okay to readjust, but when you make adjustments to your quilt, make sure that you're replacing your design onto your quilt after you've made those adjustments. All right, let's continue on. All right, the next one, this is move to start point. And I'm going to tap on move to start point. Say okay. And then say okay. Tap on next. Giving you lots of warnings, you guys. All right, we're not want to start our countdown yet because I do want to bring my thread up. You guys, I want to warn you, I screwed up here. Okay, and notice what I'm doing to bring my thread up. All right, now I can start my countdown and turn it on. Sorry. Okay, sorry. But because I was off my quilt top, it didn't matter, okay? I just hit the needle up, needle down rather than my start. But it was okay. You guys started stitching. It was great. And I'm going to tap on. Okay, so this one, I'm going to show you some stitching. Up and off the edge. What it looks like. It's going to be a little slow. There. This is the fun part when it's stitching out. See those cute little mushrooms? Okay, it's going to head up here. Oh, don't show them that part. Give it that. And they know. All right, we're going to go to the next. All right, here we go. Okay, one of the questions everybody asks, is rehooping hard to do? And I don't think it is. I think it's actually quite easy, but it's totally up to you after you
Close
see
to
them.
the end. It's going to start our countdown. We're going to tap on. Okay, stop, Carla, stop. Sorry,
Okay.
getting my buttons confused, okay? So now we've stopped it, okay? We're ready to shift our quilt to finish quilting our next section. Okay, we have an official stop, but see it's locked in place, okay? So how do I unlock it?
You guys, I figured out how to unlock it. Jerry helped me because I paused it first before stopping the machine. My bad.
Because you paused.
Yeah, so I hit cancel going forward. So now you've seen all my mistakes. Now we're going to reposition it and quilt it.
My threads and insert my needle up and down. Notice I did it right there. And I had a little over stitching right there. That's okay. It really locked that last stitch down. You guys, it's really hard going from one machine to the next and trying to understand what this machine does that the others don't do, because with the other machine, I don't have to stop it, but I do on this one. So but that's okay. Look how beautiful it's stitching. All right, so now what I want to do is set it up to continue stitching the rest of it. So I'm going to unclamp this clamp, my side clamps, because it won't go anywhere without my side clamps. Notice I'm using my thumbs. I'm going to set my clamps over here and this one. Okay, so the two clamps I want to take off. Actually, yeah, I just take off one because I just have a little bit of shifting to do. So I could actually just take this one off, leave the other two on, and just gently slide it. See how it's going to keep my position? Right here. And then I can reclamp this one and then kind of slide this one down. You want to make sure that this is staying on the very most outer edge of it. Put my clamps back on. And this time, I don't have enough fabric to attach the side clamps. So guess what? I'm going to use my bungees. And it's wide enough that it's not going to cause me problems as I'm stitching, because there's enough space in between that my machine won't be hitting my bungee. Okay, now I'm going to clamp it down right on my quilt top where I'm going to be quilting. Have to have the cutie name right side up. Okay. Now we're going to go replace the rest of our design. Now, notice that this clamp is right here. It's going to cause me problems, so I'm just going to slide it down, you guys, out of the way, because I don't want it hitting anything. Okay. Now, I get to go replace my design. I'm going to align it. Now, if you want actual, just to make sure it's right on, I would use my hand wheel to kind of rotate my needle a little closer to where it stops stitching, and then go back to step 2 to place. Here I am, step 2. I'm going to tap on, next, and start. And then we're going to go up and off our quilt. Enough that we can make sure in. So we have enough to hit right here. I'm going to mark. That will set me up for my next section. And I'm off my quilt, so I don't have to use my marks. Now, if I wanted to make sure and go back and make sure I'm aligned, I would insert my needle. I'm a little off, so I'm going to move it up one more time. There we go. I can tap on next. And actually, I need to go back just one, because you notice that I shifted it
and my start point wasn't exactly on. I'm just tapping it just slightly, making my start point right on. And then I can tap on next, and tap on move to start point, say okay, next, okay. And now we're ready for our countdown because I'm right on where I need to be. I've already, and I can pull up my threads, right, and start my countdown. There we go. My thread. All right, you guys, we're almost done. Okay, for this next month, I'm going to have a little project for you to quilt. I'm going to get the pattern done. It's almost where your heart is. You can make it any color you want. You can quilt it, piece it out, and then we're going to quilt it up. We're going to use the automation one time and free motion. So I'm going to use the free motion, and Marie and Jerry are going to use the automation. And so I'm really excited to present this to you because it's simple and easy and a lot of fun. And I just thought we'll keep us going. And like I said, it's a free pattern, so you can piece it together or you don't have to, but you can put it in your little pattern file and use it later. And it'll be 11. This is the design I want us to practice, okay? So when you're practicing, you'll start right here. You'll come up and around and then back, and you'll stop right here. You'll come up and make your heart, stop here, come up and around, and then come back and then end here. This is what it'll make it a continuous line design. I'm going to give you one to practice, and this is what it looks like continuing on. So you can practice drawing it out and seeing how you can get your marks to make it nice and specific and straight. But look how fun and cute that is. So thanks for joining me. And remember, hoop, hoop, hooray. We love our hoop frames. So, yeah, join us next time. Okay, Camille, take it away.
Thanks so much, Carla. That was great. So much good information in there. We do have a few really great questions
Okay.
for you all ready to go. So, we're loading a large quilt, onto the Quilter's Evolution hoop frame,
Okay.
and we're not basting. How do you make sure you get it on there without getting it all bunched up underneath?
If you will lay it out, okay, and lay the backing out first, okay, and roll your batting up, okay, and roll it up before you place it on and center it, and then unroll it on top of your batting, of your backing. So you're rolling your batting up so it's one long roll, and then you're unrolling it from the top to the bottom. That will get rid of some of the wrinkles. You'll do the same thing with your top. You'll roll it up, take it over to your batting and backing, and then you'll unroll it on top of that. That helps to mitigate all of those little wrinkles. Then, last but not least, you're going to roll all three of them up to, in a roll, and then take it over to your frame and clamp it on. That will really help get rid of the wrinkles.
Awesome. Okay.
We'll send it to you, you guys. We'll have it out there.
And every time you move, you shift your fabric, check your bottom. Check the bottom.
Fill underneath, you guys. It's a hoop frame, so it's really easy to fill underneath. We don't do that enough with the rolling frames, and I swear I've had more wrinkles.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's touch base on the channel locks a little bit because there is some confusion on when do you have channel locks? What machines or frames would you normally have the channel locks on there? And why would you use a channel lock instead of using a ruler or something different to keep it straight?
Okay, the channel locks are positioned on your carriage, so they are locking you into position. It's hard to say because I'm not showing you what it does. It will move straight across. So if you don't have your quilt on exactly straight, then it's going to either come down or be up off of it. So make sure No, there you get two sets of channel locks, okay? You get one for your top carriage and your machine and one for the bottom carriage, okay? So you get two channel locks so you can lock it either side to side or front to back. But I love the channel locks. Don't get me wrong, because they hold the machine in position when you're trying to wind a bobbin or thread your needle and stuff like that. But they will just lock it exactly straight to your frame rather than the quilt is positioned on your frame. So we're going to talk about channel locks a lot next time. And we're going to jump into it and give you a lot of good details. I love the channel locks, and they come with every frame but the QD Breeze. You have to purchase your channel locks. Okay? And we'll go into more detail, I promise.
Thank you, Carla. We appreciate that. If you need even more help, we do in-person classes. So we have an awesome class scheduled this year. So you guys can check out on our website at graceframe.com on the education tab, right where you see Quilter's Playground, or you can scan the QR code, and that'll take you to our awesome class schedule with all the fun things we have this year. And then if you want even more help, we have more for you. So you guys can check out our YouTube. We did a cool thing with our YouTube channel this week. We now have 2 YouTube channels. So all the help you can imagine on YouTube. So we have our Grace Company YouTube channel that gives you all the fun patterns and all the fun stuff to learn how to quilt and do fun quilting things. And then we have our specific Grace Company support channel that's here for you guys with our Quilter's Playground classes and support videos on how to use QCT, how to use this frame, all those kinds of things. And of course, check out our website. We have all the good deals, all the products, all that kind of stuff right there on the website for you.